Three men have been charged tonight with the murder of young Sam, a 23-year-old IT worker who was stabbed to death during last week's riots in Birmingham. Violence erupted in the Lozells area of the city after pirate radio stations broadcast a shocking story that a West Indian girl had been gang-raped by Asian men. It's an allegation the police have been unable to verify. And More 4 News has learnt that 5 pirate stations have closed down since the trouble. Warrants have been issued to search 4 of them. From Birmingham now, here's John Sparks.
The power of rumour portrayed as fact. Allegations of rape produced shock, anger and later the deaths of 2 young men. The accusations remain unproven, but the prospect of further trouble continues. In Birmingham, Asian versus Afro-Caribbean represents a new sort of racism. It was the worst violence in Birmingham for 20 years. The allegation that a 14-year-old black girl was raped by a gang of Asian men fueled a night of vicious hostility. The rumours were propagated by unofficial community spokesmen, DJs and downloaders using the airwaves and internet discussion rooms. But 9 days on, they remain baseless.
There is nothing more that the police can do in this situation. Not that we don't want to do anything, but we can't do anything because of that lack of victim coming forward.
On the streets of Birmingham's inner city, many of those who believed the allegations must now reconcile themselves to what happened. How do you feel? Do you feel a bit guilty for say, believing them?
Yeah, I do. I do feel guilty, yeah, to a point, because I did believe, and I feel guilty because, you know, a couple of people have died because of it, and because of, you know, maybe us feeling guilty or feeling so enraged about everything, it's caused the death of, you know, certain people.
Let's say, heaven forbid, God forbid, it wasn't true. 2 people are dead. You know what I mean? 2 people are dead. For what?
We are upset because, look, if there was something, yeah, they should have proved it first, and then, you understand, you can't say, like, I can't say, like, you're wrong until I know you've done something wrong or I've proved it, you understand? So, yeah, we are pissed off badly.
Without proof, the Afro-Caribbean community faced the possibility that the rape allegations were fabricated. But in the lead-up to the riot, some media outlets, including national black newspapers, produced arguably misleading and inflammatory headlines. Internet site discussion boards, including this one, blacknet.co.uk, have been criticised for carrying provocative correspondence. Not fair, say the site's owners.
We've never encountered something like this before. You know, the fact is we do have a lot of people coming into the site from time to time who want to cause havoc, and as we said, our moderators deal with it the best that they can. So to link us to this whole situation, we find it quite shocking.
Perhaps most contentious are pirate radio stations. There are 18 in Birmingham alone, and a number of them carried the rape allegations. Ofcom, who allocate airspace for legitimate stations, said they'll act against them.
We have at present got 4 search warrants that have been authorised by magistrates, and we are waiting to execute those search warrants. We're in liaison with the police.
Still, there was confusion over who is actually responsible for tackling the content of pirate radio stations. Ofcom said it was a police matter, but the police didn't agree.
The responsibility for enforcement in that particular area is clearly with the Department of Trade and Industry.
West Midlands Police contacted us later and said they meant to say Ofcom, not the DTI, but pirate radio and some of the views expressed through it are clearly taxing both the government and the people of inner-city Birmingham.
John Sparks there reporting from Birmingham. And Marion Fitzgerald was a Home Office advisor on race relations, and she wrote extensively about the potential for interracial tension within communities in Britain, and she's here in the studio now. You were warning of something like this happening. It has now done so. Is there any reason to believe that this kind of violence could be stirring up in other cities across Britain, or is it a specific problem in Birmingham?
I'm sure this sort of problem could kick off anywhere where you've got a mixture of different ethnic groups in very highly disadvantaged areas and potential for huge violence. 30 years ago it was happening between blacks and whites. Now the demography of those areas has changed, and what's going to kick off is going to kick off between different ethnic groups. The problem with tensions between different minorities, though, is that they've always been there, but we haven't been prepared to talk about them, so they've been allowed to fester and to go unchecked. and that's why things have reached the pitch that they have now. I hope we can take a constructive look at what's happening, though, and not get hysterical and reach for quick fix solutions.
So what could have been done? How could you have stopped a rumour circulating like that, for instance, that sparked off the violence here? There's nothing anybody in authority could have done about that, is there?
I think the sort of rumour mill and the way in which that's been allowed to operate unchecked for a long time is an issue here which will have to be looked at. For the future, though, I think what we've got to say is racism is not a monopoly of white people. We ought to know from what we're seeing all around the world the potential for interethnic conflict of all sorts. And we've got to have approaches to tackling racism which are across the board without fear or favour, and we've got to go forward from here on an even-handed basis. We've also got to stop playing politics with groups in ways that divide and rule and which actually exacerbate the natural tensions and suspicions that exist between them.
There's a limit to what authorities and government can do about this kind of thing, though, isn't it? Don't local community leaders have to take more responsibility for stopping these kind of rumours and resentment spreading throughout their community?
I don't like the notion of community leaders. It is just so colonialist, and there is a lot of resentment on the ground, particularly amongst young people, about people who set themselves up to speak on their behalf. I think we've got to find a lot more local solutions around getting people together, around the problems and issues they have in common, working together, getting over their differences, and that's the way forward, as well as an enforcement of the law without fear or favour.
Okay. Marion Fitzgerald, thanks very much for coming in.